You remember back in the day when you were young and your parents promised you would take a trip to Mombasa or a trip somewhere, not Geshagi. Geshagi was going to complain. But if we are going somewhere like Mombasa, oh my goodness, we would count down the days. Yeah, every day on the calendar, you're just asking how many more days. Well, that's where we are. We are counting down the days because on the 30th of this month, we are taking off to go to Israel via Egypt. And there's still opportunity for you to join us to be a part of this trip. And that's why I'm giving you the heads up now. I'm telling you now because there's still opportunity for you to be able to join us and to be part of this trip. This trip will change your life. This trip will enrich your faith so that when you hear Jesus was on the Mount of Olives, you're not imagining Gong Hills, Mount Longonot. No, you've actually been there. You stood there. When you hear he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, you're not thinking about your coffee farms, ama your Mahindi farm uko Western. No. You have a full picture because you've actually been in that garden. When you read about he is no longer dead, he is alive. That's the inscription that's written on his tomb. You've actually walked in there and walked out of there. When you hear about Elijah calling down fire on Mount Carmel, you have stood there. I'm telling you, your Bible reading experience will be very different. So here's what you need to do, because time is running out and I want to go with you on this trip. If you're still undecided, vuka sakafu mwendo waki aste, come and join this side. Let's make this trip together. You need to call Francis today. Francis is our Israel tour coordinator. 0715 337756 0715337756. Call him, book your slot, get your passport ready. Cost is only $2,550 US per person sharing. It's worth every shilling. You will tell your grandchildren this story. I'm telling you the truth. So I'm waiting to hear that you called Francis and that I am going with you. Aya, wazazi, ebu vuteni stool karibu na TV na radio. We have an interesting conversation we want to get into. This morning we are talking about fostering a reading culture in our children. And as we get into this conversation, I wonder, are you a reader? Now, usiseme mimi ni reader, hapana. We are not talking about that one. Are you a reader? How many books do you read? Kuna watu wana, a friend of mine who every year 52 books, every week anasomaga moja. He's been doing this, I think, for the last maybe 10 years. My friend James Musia, when I grew up. This morning we get to hang out with two amazing ladies. I have got Priscila Owaga. She is a homeschooler. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's good to have you on Parenting Tuesday today.
Asante.
We also have a children's book author and a content creator, Shiko Nguru. Shiko, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Karibu sana Kenya.
Asante.
What kind of content do you create?
Motherhood, parenting, lifestyle content. Everything to do with raising children, being a woman in Nairobi, parenting Gen Z child, etc., etc.
So you must do a lot of reading if you're creating content.
Especially because I'm writing, I have to read for the vocabulary, for the creativity, for the ideas. So I read avidly.
What about you? Are you an avid reader?
I would say
you're in the making.
I'm in the making, but I live with readers. One of the things that I've appreciated, having grown from an average family, I never had the opportunity to know how important it is to read. I live with a husband who's a great reader, and our children are super readers. I had to make sure that now that I didn't have that opportunity, I really wanted my children to get to know how important reading is, what it makes someone to be, and in the process have gotten to get lots of books for our children to read. And now in the process, I'm reading with them. They say when you're teaching, you read twice.
It's true.
So now I'm reading with them.
Okay. So what is this importance you discovered that made you say my children have to be readers? Why is it important for us to develop a reading culture in our children?
I realized that a reading child is a thinking child, is a creative child. A reading child is a confident child. Their self-esteem is very good. A reading child is an informed child. They know different cultures. They're confident that they can actually accommodate different kinds of people, because everyone is not just, when I was growing up in the village, James Okumwe, I didn't know how Chinese live, how the frozen lands of Canada are. I didn't know how the snows of the US. I mean, imagine in the village, you're just doing your math, addition, subtraction, writing a composition there, about a lion and the hare, and stuff like that. I could only imagine. But as my children read, as I look at their books, I realize they know so much about different cultures of the world. When they meet someone who is not who they are or who they find in their home, then they actually have an idea that actually people are different.
Okay.
Not all people are the same. Cultures are different. Countries are different. Animals are different. So it sort of have made them very informed, very confident, very easy, very accommodating. And I realized if I have to give my children a gift, it's a gift of reading.
The gift of reading.
Yes, and they also helped me to have a second chance to read again with them when they're in class.
That's interesting. Yes. I'm curious, Shiko, I'm just wondering, does the way education is presented sometimes present a challenge in becoming an avid reader? And I'm asking this because when I think back, reading for me was a burden. My dad is watching. Reading was a burden. Reading was part of school. The way school was presented was a burden. And sometimes I wonder, now putting on my pastor's kofia, whether it's the same problem people have when it comes even to reading the Bible, because reading is a burden. Is there a connection there, maybe the way it was presented? I
absolutely think so. I think as human beings, even part of our culture, our parents learned through stories. Yeah. And when education or school information is presented so far away from that, it is a burden. It becomes like we just have to memorize these facts. And in fact, how I got into writing was because I was homeschooling my eldest daughter at the time. And I wanted to teach her about African Kenyan folklore and history. But all the textbooks I found were that kind of burdensome fact presentation. And so I decided to write a series of short stories that would explain Kenyan folklore and culture in a way that she would enjoy. And so I presented them as stories, a story about Syokimau, a story about Sherome. And so I definitely think there's a way you can present information, our education, our stories from the past in a way that's more appealing to children and that does encourage this culture of reading. And when we don't do that, it's a missed opportunity because you're showing kids that it's not that interesting, and it really is. It's fascinating.
Does the learning style of a child affect whether they can be an avid reader or not? And I'm asking that because I discovered I was not the kind of student mwalimu akiongea nimeshika kila kitu, because mwalimu akiongea I'm busy doing my own things because I get distracted very easily. Yeah, even when I'm having conversations, my hands have to be active. I need a pen. I'm the kind of person you're talking and I'm drawing something, but I'm listening, but I'm just distracted. I think that my learning style, if I'm not wrong, is kinesthetic or something like that. I learn through all the senses. Draw me a diagram. In fact, show me the movie. Yeah, don't stand there and teach. Just give me the movie.
Sing a song if you can.
Sing a song if you can. Does that affect how somebody relates with reading, being an avid reader or not being an avid reader?
I think it does. When our son was in preschool, more often than not, I'll read the stories for him when he's under the table. When he's somersaulting on the couch, when he's, and the curriculum that I use, which is SCE, has lots of reading. Every day would have a story or two, 4 or 5 stories. And almost all the time, after he did his somersaults and all, and I asked him the questions. It initially used to think he's not hard. And I would be tempted to do it the way I did it in school.
Yeah.
Sit straight, you know, listen, no talking, everyone, you know. But I realized he would answer every single question correctly.
Okay.
And so was our daughter when she also got to start reading. As I read the stories, and at times I would read up to a whole page, and the child is only 5 years old, and I would ask, what did Zippy Zebra do? Oh, you know, she ran and she got the frisbee and threw it and hit the friend, and that's how the teeth came out. I wondered, oh, so you were listening. So different people read and understand differently. Now, don't do that to me, James. I want to be in the library. I want silence. I want to concentrate.
May I read with music?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So different people learn differently. That's why it is important for you to understand the person that you are with, the child that you are with, and try and accommodate them.
Okay.
Try and accommodate them. Let them do it their way, so that they can get the most from the content. Yes.
Something Priscila has mentioned that has provoked a thought. She talked about when she was reading to her son. So I'm just wondering, at what point, if we want to create a reading culture within our children, I guess it begins with us reading to them. So at what point do we read to them? You know, I see in the movies, daddy tucks the baby and the child to bed, and they read a bedtime story.
Yes.
This is the bedtime story. Mr. Okumu, why didn't you ever read for bedtime story?
Okay, I was also not read for bedtime stories.
Yes.
But from when my daughter, she's 12 now, she's my firstborn, from when she was 3 months, we started a bedtime routine. Bath, breast milk, book, bed.
Hey, the bees.
Yes, easy to remember, and that became the culture for our household. So I start my children very young, like newborns, and it just becomes part of their bedtime
you read
routine.
to them?
Yes, like, you know, bath. I give them a bath when they're 3 months old. I mean, you know, I started around 3 months old, and then I feed them, breastfeed them. Then I read a book. Then I put them to bed.
What do you read to them?
I mean, there are books for newborns that are just, you know, read.
Books for newborns.
Yes, they even made in black and white so that they can see nicely, because, you know, their eyesight is not.
In this country?
Yes,
books
you
for
can find
newborns.
them. Yes, you can find books from 0 to 6 months, 6 months to 12 months, toddler and up. I mean, these days we are all trying to develop this reading culture.
The earliest books I can remember is Jack and Jill.
No.
John and Jane, Peter and Jill.
They're touch and feel books. Yeah, no, they're books that, you know, teach texture, so you put their little hand and they can feel something fluffy. So they've created books for, you know, for as early as you can imagine. And once you start, I mean, I have found that starting them off that way really develops this strong appreciation for reading, so that even in this day and age where there's so many distractions, from, you know, a tablet to the TV to their phones to TikTok, as we mentioned, my daughter will still be like, Mom, you've not bought me a book this month. Yeah, you know, she has every distraction you can imagine, but she'll still be like, you know, she feels weird when she doesn't have a book that she's currently reading. Ati, Mommy, you've not bought me a book. Yes, in fact, she really challenged me. She's like,
lay hands on the rest of us. We get that anointing. What?
Yeah, no, she really challenges even me, because she reads very fast. But I and my boys are the same. I mean, they really appreciate reading because it's what they've known from a very young age. And you know, when some parents say, "Oh, my son just doesn't like reading," or is distracted, like Priscilla said, you may think they're distracted, but read aloud to them. And also meet them where they are in terms of their interests. If your son is into trucks, buy a book about trucks. If he's really into a show on TV, nowadays, luckily, the TV shows have books that go along with them. And then, so you're leaning into their interests, but you're also developing this culture of reading.
Okay. How do we deal with the distractions that she's mentioned? I mean, we have screens everywhere. We were having this discussion the other day with a friend of mine, because we give our children the phone Before they even know how to walk, they know how to navigate the phone. How do we deal with that distraction?
In fact, one of the things that I've come to appreciate, and as the Bible says, teach a child in the way they should go.
Yeah.
And when they grow up, they will not depart from that.
Yes.
Right? When you, from the start, when you teach your child not to have screen, or rather limit screen time, they actually grow up with it. We, in our family, we have a 12 and a 10-year-old. Screen is only on Saturday and on Sunday.
Rewind, pause. Say it again loudly. Say it again loudly.
Screen is only on Saturday and on Sunday, period. They grew up, found that culture between my husband and I, because we knew, yes, screen has information, but we also know how detrimental it is to the brain of a child. Yes, it slows the cognitive ability of a child if it is overdone for more than 2 hours every day. You realize that. Then you realize their creativity is affected by screen. You see, unlike a book, James, a book engages your brain. You keep thinking. That child keeps thinking as they read. They keep on imagining. They keep on being creative. But when you watch, it's a chewing gum of a brain. You're just there and waiting for the next screen, for the next scene, for the next. So
because when I read, I have to paint my own picture
of what it is. In fact, I asked my son before I came, why do you love reading so much? Because you have lots of books. My husband is a very good guy with books. Many times he'd come with up to 10 books. And we buy them on the streets, by the way, toy market, town. When he lands with the books, kids celebrate. People jump.
you know, bring our children to your house for attachment.
You know, and you realize because of the books, one, the books distract the need for screen. So we've taught them from the word go, no screen, no watching, but Saturday and Sunday, because we're in the generation of screens anyway, you can say no screen all. So they watch whatever is chosen for them and what is appropriate for them. Sometimes they do football games, they do making for the girl, you know, whatever it is that she's doing. But that is only done for 30 minutes and move, have a break, then another 30 minutes, 1 hour is good enough, right? Of course, as they grow, they're trying to push the boundaries and all. So reading really engages your brain, gives you imagination, gives you creativity. He actually said, reading for me is like watching a movie unfold as I read. So I watch my movies on the book, not on the screen.
Ooh. This morning on Parenting Tuesday, how to foster reading culture in our children. We're hanging out with homeschooler Priscila Owaga and children's book author and content creator Shiko Nguru. If you have any questions for us, 20316 is the SMS line. Catherine, thank you for your question. Catherine and Nauliza, those books you said for children, atazipata wapi?
I mean, as Priscilla has said, also, you can find them at Toy Market, you can find them at Textbook Center. I do a lot of shopping at Textbook Center. Nowadays, there's books you can buy at half price books, do a lot of toddler books, picture books. I mean, they're called picture books is what they are.
Picture books.
Yeah, picture books. So you can find, I mean, nowadays, there's a host of places you can find.
Okay. Okay. This is such a great conversation. It's so enlightening. Is it too late to start with a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old? Mary anataka kujua.
No, it is not late at all. In fact, that's the time when they start to read.
Okay.
At around 5, 6, 7 years is when children are learning to read. So it is not late at all. Let the parent get a variety of books, many books, because again, one of the things that the parent must do is don't force the child and don't buy one line of books. Maybe the child likes detectives or homely books or
Famous Five.
Adventurous books,
is what we used to read.
Animal books. So buy a variety, put them there, encourage the child to read. It's early enough.
How do you encourage the child to read? Are there some ideas, some techniques that you can use to get your child started? Because if this has not been the norm, first of all for you as a parent, so they don't see you reading that much, and now you're trying to foster a reading culture within them. What are some some ideas you can employ to encourage them and to kickstart them into this culture?
I think reading with them is a great way to start.
Okay.
There's a culture that's growing that's called read aloud culture. There's this mentality that kids don't need to be read to once they know how to read, and that's not true. Kids love to be read to, even kids as old as 10 and 11. So read a chapter with them, ask them to read the next chapter by themselves maybe, and then talk it, you discuss it, then so on and so forth. So I think reading with your children, even if they already know how to read, is a great way to start that culture and get them interested in reading.
Okay. What about for the mzazi? If the mzazi doesn't have a reading culture,
and also the time,
you also want to, and also the time,
they also
and you also want to start so that you can do this with your children. What can you? What?
Two things, maybe three. One, create a very conducive environment for reading.
Conducive megani.
Have a shelf with nicely arranged books, a chair and a desk, if not a study room. Right? If not a study room.
An environment specifically for reading.
Yes, specifically for reading.
Okay.
That is sort of appealing to the child.
Okay.
And you see, the books, many of the children books are colorful, have pictures and all. They actually want to peruse through and see what is it exactly that is in this book.
Yeah.
Number two, rewards.
Oh, rewards.
Yes, as I kept telling children, our curriculum that we use for homeschooling rewards the child who reads many books. My children read up to 30 books in a term, sometimes 50 books in a term. So when they realize that, yes.
Are these books like Matthew, Mark, Luke?
No. No, the story books, 100 pages, 50 pages. Of course, when they were small, we started with fewer pages, picture books, few lines, But now we do up to 200 pages, whatever number of pages. So the more you read the books, whoever has read, they actually write down. And the more you read, I realize this is good reading for this child.
Okay.
What do you want at the end of the term? If you do 30 books this term, and let's be honest and sincere, we're not lying, we're going to say the truth, yes. So we're reading books cover to cover, we're understanding the content. Again, then I say a smart word for you. So you see, they're motivated to read. Some people like ice cream, others like chocolate, others want a nice dress, others want whichever toy it is. So they're working towards a goal. But in the process, they actually lost into the content of the books. Another thing that really motivates a child to read is for them to narrate to you the story. I know, James, that we don't have a lot of time as parents. Because, we are working, and it's understandable. You leave in the morning, you come in the evening. We all can't homeschool, granted. But you can afford a Saturday, an evening, a Sunday. Let them narrate the story to you. Let them tell you how, this missionary flew with a plane and it crashed, and these were his survival tactics. So in case I ever drop with a plane, now I know what to do. Oh yeah, you will not drop with a plane, you not crash, but yes, those are good survival tactics. What else did you learn? I realized that guy did 1, 2, 3. So as they narrate the story, then you realize if you give them time, they're motivated to read more, to tell daddy,
tell you more stories,
what they read about, on technology, on different books on, and the home becomes, it's like you're watching movies, but movies from books.
Now you said that, and it reminded me, I read a story. A father had written an article, and he had said how he began paying his children to read books. Read the book, write a book summary, you get paid.
Yes.
Walisoma vitabu. Now waliandika book summaries. I'm curious, Shiko, does this help the child academically as well?
Reading,
yes,
absolutely. Not only does it develop the imagination, spark curiosity, it also grows independent thinkers and more confident learners. The more you know about the world, the more confident you are in your ability to express yourself. So that, that shows itself not just when they're writing compositions, or essays, not just when they're giving debates or talking to their teachers, but even when they approach a problem in math, a word problem, they have more confidence because they know they can comprehend. So it's building that comprehension, the confidence, the curiosity, and the creativity.
Okay.
So that helps them. It translates across disciplines. And you find even kids that read a lot have the ability to speak to grown-ups in a way that's very different from their peers, you know, because they have that confidence and they know what they're saying and they can express themselves. And I find that carries from age to age, like even as they grow older, you find that they live with that discipline, which definitely helps them academically.
Okay. There's a question here, homeschooler, you can tell us. Good morning, my son is 6th grade. My son is 6, grade 1, and he has trouble reading. Sometimes that affects him in his exams. But when I read for him, he answers and understands. How can I help him know how to read?
Keep reading. Read, and after you read for him, read again and again and again. And after some time, encourage him to read for himself. Start with easy, interesting books. When he finishes, give the next easy, interesting book. Get to know what they like to read about.
Yeah.
If they like adventure, buy adventure books. If they like cartoon books, buy cartoon books. If they like detective books, you know, such. But because they're struggling, start reading for them until they gain the speed. Then now give them a jump start. You would have given them a jump start, then they're likely to run.
Okay, a comment here from Wamboi. Wamboi Nuthiru, thank you for tuning in. You say, good morning, my children are avid readers. I realized that the reading culture is nurtured and it is good to start early. I read for my kids from when they were born, and now at 17 and 19, they are still avid readers. They prefer to read a book instead of TV or movie, and they download ebooks on their tablets instead of watching TikTok. Reading has kept them grounded, knowledgeable, and very creative. They started a library at a local primary school with their numerous books, and from feedback, the kids at the school are really reading. Libraries. Do we still have libraries? Are they functional?
We need more.
I've only managed to identify 2 in the city. Macmillan and the one at KNH.
Yes.
Any other?
That's what I'm asking.
I actually find it very unfortunate that a child in Kibera can't jump into a library. That a child in Kitengela can't jump into a library and read. I mean, and even the children in South B and Langata and wherever, they still have to come all the way into town. I think we need many more libraries in the city for us to create readers. And let me tell you, the future of a nation, the future of a nation, the pillars of a great future of a nation is reading children. Knowledgeable children. They will know why Singapore is where it is, and they would want to do it in our country, you know. Libraries will give them access to that information.
And school libraries too. I know a number of schools are asking parents, if you have books at home, bring them in. Yeah, so then the kids can swap. I actually started reading as a child because of the library in my school. There was a huge donation of books to my school, and that's when my love of reading started. I actually used to pretend to be sick so that I would be sent, because the nurses, where the nurse was next to the library. So after she's done with you, she tells you to go sit in the library and wait for your parents to pick you up or wait for home time. And so that used to be my, all I need to do is say I'm not feeling well, so that I'm sent to the library, and then I just read the whole afternoon until they caught on, and then it was like, okay.
Number 1. As we pretend to be sick so we can go for PE. One thing I need you to mention before we finish, because our time is up, because I think it's also a very important aspect of this. When we began this conversation, and you were talking about how you got into all this, you started writing because you saw a gap where your child was concerned, and this has developed into you being a children's book author.
Absolutely.
Yeah. have we ignored that space so that we are depending on other people to write books for us within our context, within our culture? Do we need more parents to write books?
Yes, we need more Kenyans. We need more people of color. We need more people who look like our kids to write books for our kids about places they know.
Yeah.
We need more authors to write children for African kids, for Kenyan kids, based on our experiences that our kids can relate to. It shouldn't be that we all think of our childhoods and think of Famous Five, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
You know, our kids should grow up thinking, oh, when I was young, I read Mwikali and the Forbidden Mask, which is my book. Or, you know, Nderito and the
whatever.
big, whatever. You know, that should be what our kids grow up remembering.
I love that.
Absolutely. I love
Finally, brethren.
Yes.
When you look at both of you, I'll give you a minute each. When you look at your children, because they read, in the midst of other children who may not be as avid readers as their children are, what differences do you see?
They're very confident. They're very knowledgeable. They're very imaginative. They're very creative. More often than not, where they land in a group of children, they become leaders in the group because they know the name of their team, they know what they should do. When they're with adults, they know how to express themselves, they know how to talk on behalf of others. They have ideas. They're not looking for them. They have a lot of information in their brains. They want to try things out. People in our house are always trying to fix this and that. I have to keep on saying, but you don't always try it at home. You know, they have read so much. They think their world has a lot. So it has helped them to be the kind of children that they are.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, just on top of that, I think you grow lifelong learners. They're always looking to learn. So they'll be like, Mom, I want to learn Japanese. Or Mom, I want to learn more about this specific thing. So you grow children who will never stop wanting to learn more and more.
Wow. Shiko and Priscilla, asanteni sana. Thank you very much for coming.
Karibu.
I really
thank you for
have
the
learned quite a
opportunity.
bit from this conversation.
Asante.
Yeah, nikitoka kazini leo nitaenda kununua kitabu. Hallelujah. And a friend of mine, he was very good in Swahili, very good, 98%, 100%. And I kept asking him, "Si unifundisha hii Kiswahili? How do you study?" And he told me something very interesting. He told me, my dad can't read English. So he buys the Swahili newspaper. So that's the one I read. I just read the Swahili newspaper every day. That is what has improved my Swahili. Wazazi, buy a book for your child today. Get them started on this journey. It's never too late. Even you, buy yourself a book. Until next week, have a great day. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get notified whenever we upload new, fresh content every day. Stay tuned and enjoy fresh, uplifting content.